With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Welcome to ParaTruth. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to ParaTruth Reborn, or just welcome if you're new with us. This is a pre-recorded show on 107.7 FM New Orleans and United Public Radio Network. My name is Eric.
And I'm Justin.
Justin, I've got a question for you. Do you step on cracks or perhaps toss spilled salt over your shoulder?
I used to not step on cracks, but now I don't care. The salt over the shoulder, no, I don't. But I know plenty that do.
Yeah, I always thought the tossing the salt over your shoulder was kind of a weird thing. Like, I get the idea behind it, but then you're just making a mess that you have to vacuum up later.
Right.
It doesn't make much sense. Or you get bugs. I don't know. The reason I asked you that question, and the reason why I asked him that question, folks, is because today we're talking about primarily superstitions. A superstition is basically a belief or practice that isn't based on facts or scientific evidence, and often involving a belief in luck, magic, or omens. Essentially, it's a belief that goes beyond what we can explain by logic or reason. Now, I personally am someone who tends to fall into this whole superstitious belief. I tend to give into it, especially with intrusive thoughts of the whole obsessive and compulsive nature of my mind. So it's not easy, but growing up, I too used to not step on cracks, and it was like a religious thing. I could not do it. I never tossed salt over my shoulder, just because then things would be dirty. That's the only reason. So that's, but wouldn't walk under ladders. I would.
That I still don't do to this.
You still don't do that? Okay.
Yeah.
I do nowadays. It's just easier to walk under one than to go around one.
I will say that it's not because superstition. It's just I don't want the ladder to fall on me or something from above to fall on my head.
So that's totally
more safety than superstition.
There's some other things I think I would or do often. When it comes to my obsessive compulsive nature, if I shut a door or lock something or turn a light off and I have a negative thought, I think that negative thought is solidified in the energy that I put into turning something off or doing something. And so I have to repeat it over and over and over again until I can clear my mind and turn the lights off, lock the doors, whatever, with a clear mind or with a positive thought. So that is often a struggle for me. Even when I don't want to give into the superstition, I still naturally give into them. And a lot of people out there do. Superstition is one of those things that is very highly regarded around the world, and especially in American culture, which you're going to learn pretty soon here. So really, let's begin with just the ancient origins of superstitions. Now, many common superstitions, like the belief in bad luck after breaking a mirror or knocking on wood, can be traced back to ancient cultures. For example, the Romans believed that breaking a mirror meant damaging one's reflection, thus harming their soul. The practice of knocking on wood, typically done to ward off bad fortunes or tempting fate, is believed to stem from the ancient pagan beliefs that spirits were thought to reside in trees. Therefore, knocking on trees or wood was done to call upon the tree spirits for protection and good luck. And you'll see like a lot of these superstitions do have a basis in the supernatural to begin with, or the spiritual. But there's also some common sense ones as well.
Hmm. Well, and something that is I found fascinating getting the research for this was that it all stems from, ancient culture, which a lot of the stuff we talk about today, vampires, werewolves, that kind of stuff stems from that too. So,
well, now then there's, of course, the religious influences regarding the superstitions. Some superstitions are linked to religious beliefs and practices, though they may have evolved independently from the religious practice itself. For instance, the superstition of saying "bless you" after someone sneezes may have originated from the early belief that one could expel their soul through the sneeze, while others believe the term originated as a form of prayer to protect the sneezer or the sneezing person from illness or plague. Now, on top of that, there's also the psychology of belief, in which superstitions can also be seen as a way for individuals to feel more in control of situations, such as I do with my OCD, or to cope with uncertainty or fear. Finally, there's cultural universality versus cultural specificity. I hate long words, difficult words, as you all know. Cultural universality suggests that certain traits, behaviors, or elements are shared across all cultures, regardless of geographic location or historical period. On the other hand, cultural specificity basically emphasizes the unique practices, traditions, and beliefs that distinguish different cultures from one another.
now something that I found super fascinating about this is the poll that we did for you all to chime in what superstitions you believe in or practice. So we'll get into that later.
Mhm.
But the classic superstitions that are explored here are just some of the more common ones. And so I know you don't follow this because you already have two black cats, but there's the superstition of black cats bringing bad luck. It has roots in various historical and cultural contexts. While some cultures view them as symbols of good luck, the association with bad luck in many Western traditions stems from the Middle Ages and is linked to associations with witches and demons. Early lore suggests that black cats were often recognized as the familiars of witches, which we've talked about on here. Basically, demonic entities that granted a witch her power.
Mhm.
Now, black cats, at least in North American culture, are are also viewed as bad omen should one cross your path. The superstition also extends to black dogs. However, in many cultures around the world, black cats are regularly regarded as good luck and wards against dark or evil spirits. Now, I know the belief about the black dogs, and we've kind of talked about black dogs on here, but I growing up, I don't think in any of these superstitions that our family recognized or practiced in the black dogs weren't a thing. It was always the black cats.
Right. Yeah, black cats have notoriously been much more regarded in the superstitions. Black dogs, obviously, it's not really so much American. We kind of see the black dogs happening more in Europe, being more prominent. Not more prominent than black cats per se, but also black cats in other places around the world tend to be seen as good luck and good omens. The whole bad luck, bad omen thing is much more North American than anything. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, but Americans like to make everything darker and scarier for some reason. But yeah, it's still very interesting that people are using the color of fur on these animals to associate them with what is represented as evil or dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you find out that or see an article about that it kind of wasn't in the Middle Ages that it was practiced or believed that the cats were causing like the Black Plague and stuff?
Yeah. So there was a lot of stop. Sorry. My cat's chewing on my book. Stop, bud. I will say that black cats are not bad luck, but they are nuances.
They're naughty little SOPs.
Yes. So yeah, I was doing research on the Black Plague. Every once in a while, I tend to take a interest of mine and I research it over again. And in this case, I decided to look up the Black Plague and do some more deeper dives to see what's changed, because there's always new evidence coming out. You believe it or not, a lot of these historical events that are hundreds of years old are still being studied today. And so there's always new material coming out on these subject matters. Now, one of the superstitions or one of the beliefs was that the Black Plague was started because there was a fear monger back in the 1300s. They believed that witches were very prominent and black cats in general, but primarily black cats, were therefore the familiars of witches. And so the Europeans went around and killed a ton of cats, burning them and drowning them and all the stuff. As a result, these rats started to manifest more and more around people, and eventually, due to carrying the plague or the fleas on them that carried the plague in particular, started getting around food sources, started biting people. And yeah, it was basically like, well, how ironic, right? You kill all the cats would normally kill the rats, but there's no cats, so the rats spread. That, of course, is just folklore. In reality, the cats were not, searched out and killed. I'm not saying there weren't cats that were killed at some point or another, but it wasn't like a mass killing of cats during those times. Instead, it just happened that these rats grew ever more popular and found their way onto the streets, probably looking for good food sources. And despite having cats around to kind of limit that, the structure of the rats, they ended up just happening to get to people, and that thing spread. And in fact, both cats and dogs were also subject to the Black Plague. So there were cats and dogs dying just the same as humans were, and they were being buried and burned or whatever next to these dead people. Not burned alive or anything, but it was after they would pass away, these animals. Livestock was also very prominently killed during the Black Plague as well. So this disease had really no particular interest in one person or being. It was just out, taking out everybody, basically.
Yeah. So I think as we were in history class, it was told to us that they blamed the black cats for the plague,
right? And
so they were killed. So it is fascinating that this information is always changing. Same thing with like the velocity of Roanoke. They're discovering more and more now compared to when we first did the story.
Well, it's wild because I heard the same thing. Like, you and I did a whole story on the Black Plague, an episode on the plague. And that was one of the prominent things that we featured, were these cats that were being killed. And that's why it spread. Now, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is basically the evidence that is currently being used, which is often dug up through archaeology, or like manuscripts that are found hidden away for hundreds of years that people are suddenly finding and seeing, new information. It's just like this new info is kind of enlightening us, showing us more. And it doesn't mean that there weren't cats killed because of the witch trials and that didn't play some sort of effect onto the plague itself. But it would seem that cats and other creatures that were considered familiars were not actually, what's it called? Like soloed out as a particular creature to be killed, and that's what resulted in the plague. But it does make a fascinating story, I will say. Like
when they should have just zeroed in on the rats instead of the cats, because rats are known to be familiars too.
That's true. But it's a lot harder to find a rat than it is to find a cat.
That is very true. All right. So the next one on our list here is broken mirrors. Now, I will say that for a very long time, again, it's not so much now, but when I was younger, whenever a mirror would break, I would always say, well, there's 7 years of bad luck. Now, broken mirrors, this superstition, like I said, brings 7 years bad luck, has ancient roots. As Eric mentioned earlier, particularly in Roman times, the Romans believed the mirrors reflected one's soul and that the gods used these images to see into one's inner identity, and therefore breaking a mirror would be disrespectful to the gods, and hence bad luck would ensue. The Romans also believed that the body and soul renewed themselves every 7 years, and therefore breaking a mirror would have a negative outcome on the individual until the 7-year period was over and the souls were renewed. The superstition of a broken mirror doesn't end there, though. There stood a belief that though a broken mirror still reflects one's image and therefore their soul, it would reflect it in a corrupted or distorted way, which I've actually seen that in a broken mirror, depending on how bad it's been broken. Finally, there's the ever-present belief that a mirror can act as a protective barrier between the physical and spiritual realms, hence the belief in utilizing mirrors when scrying. However, breaking the mirror and therefore the barrier between realms could invite negative spirits and energies into your life. Now, I will contradict this because in recent years, it's been believed that mirrors are portals or windows or doorways into the spiritual realm, and that you should not have them, especially in places like your sleeping arrangement, because it makes it easier for spirits to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel breaking a mirror would not be bad luck, but preventing that. We've talked about this a lot, and I don't remember. Have we ever gone over the practice of covering the mirror during a funeral?
I think we did cover it one time, but it's been a while.
Okay. But yeah, so in ancient culture, I shouldn't say ancient culture, it was actually more recent than ancient culture. But a lot of practice
is just culture, though. You gotta. I asked somebody once. They asked me. It was a musician. Asked me what kind of music I wanted them to play. I said, "Well, classic rock." And he's like, "Well, what's classic rock?" And I'm like, "Classic rock." He's like, "80s, 70s, 90s is now classic."
Right.
Like, I guess there's got to be more specific these days.
Yeah. Well, there are still cultures that do still practice this, like in Romania, I believe. The Greek still practice this in certain areas where they cover the mirrors because it's believed that the spirit will not leave because it'll see its reflection in the mirror and think it's not dead. Or it will be scared to not leave the house because it's seeing itself and there's a fear there. There's so many conflicting beliefs now that it's a little bit different.
Well, that's the thing about beliefs, right? Everyone has their own views on how to interact with a mirror and what that mirror is capable of. Some say it's a barrier, others say it's a portal. Some say you should communicate through it. Some say that spirits will just teleport through them and come to you. We should have mirrors. We shouldn't have mirrors. It depends on what you're doing with those mirrors, et cetera, et cetera. There's long been I believe, or at least a discussion in which if someone were to be either died or was brutally murdered in a mirror, that whole situation would somehow get pulled into that mirror as kind of like a residual haunt, and they would become trapped, or the story, or not the story, but the elements of the murder would become trapped in the mirror. And some will say the spirits of those people or that person was trapped in there.
Kind of like the Bloody Mary.
Kind of like the Bloody Mary thing. Yeah, exactly. Or Candyman or any of those. And, like you said, some say that when you break a mirror, it's bad luck. While others say if there's a spirit trapped in a mirror or trying to get to you through a mirror, it is important to break that mirror because it can't come through the broken pieces. But instead, it's kind of stuck. There's the portal is shattered, basically. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me personally, because now I just see, you just took one evil spirit and created way too many.
Several.
They can all come out now because a mirror is still a mirror, whether it's broken or not. It's reflective. So,
very good point. And if pop culture has taught us anything, that Murphy's Law is, again, an SOB. Whatever can go wrong will. So, there goes the tail.
There goes the tail.
All right. So spilling salt, the superstition that spilling salt brings bad luck likely originated from the depiction of Judas Iscariot spilling a salt cellar in Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper. While the painting is a well-known representation, the belief that spilling salt is unlucky predates da Vinci's work. Obviously, I feel that it would go way further back than that. Mm-hmm. The idea of salt being a symbol of purity and protection, and thus a potential source of bad luck when spilled, may also contribute to the superstition. And in Erik's particular case, it would be dirty, so you can't use it anymore, and you just dirtied your floor on top of that. Mm-hmm. So the fact that salt was a valuable commodity in some cultures, spilling it could be seen as a waste of resource and disrespect. I can see that, especially in the European cultures. On the flip side, tossing salt over your left shoulder is believed to blind the devil. So there's a link to Christianity there. Prevent negative energies and ward off evil spirits. Salt has also been used to create circles or line properties with the belief that it would protect the user against demons or witches, which may have attributed to the prior. And that is actually still practiced in the paranormal, supernatural, new age communities today. And I still remember to this day circling your car with salt when we would go do investigations.
Yep. Well, there's this thing about salt, and we see even like in the Bible that salt is considered kind of a purifying element, and whether or not it can actually disrupt spirit energies or purify a person or anything like that, we don't know. But what scriptures do say is that salt is used to basically sustain meat. It helps to protect it.
Purify the meat.
Yeah, keep it longer. And still that kind of idea translates. If it's capable of doing that, then it's capable of purifying or protecting a property as well. But the saltiness does lose, or the salt does lose its saltiness eventually. And that's something that needs to be considered, right? So for individuals who tend to line their property, their yard, basically, but the property lines of their house, some will put it around their home, around the yards, across doors, stuff like that. once it rains or the wind blows heavy enough, that salt is gone and it's no longer usable. So there are certain things that need to be taken into consideration when using salt for those purposes. But yeah, for a long time, many, many years since ancient times, and we're talking like Mesopotamia, like salt has been seen and believed that it is has a basically have a high regard for the purity of salt in and of itself.
Yeah. And I think we've kind of covered this before. Salt is also a crystal, which many people believe crystals have protective properties. So, all right, next up, and I will say I don't do this. Again, it's not because of bad luck, but it's because I don't want to deal with messing up the floor in the house. Opening an umbrella indoors, and that's more so coming from outside going inside.
You mean if you're using it in the rain? And
yeah.
I was like, well, how are you going to mess up your floor if you open an umbrella? But there's rain on the umbrella. Yeah, that makes more sense.
That's why I clarified, because I guess I don't know. It's also, again, a safety thing. Like, somebody could literally get hurt if you open an umbrella indoors and they're not paying attention. The superstition against opening umbrellas indoors likely originate from a combination of practical reasons and cultural beliefs. Early umbrellas, often made of metal with sharp spokes, with my point exactly, could be dangerous to open inside, causing accidents and damage. Additionally, in some cultures, umbrellas were seen as symbols of power or sun protection, and opening them indoors away from the sun was considered disrespectful to the sun god Ra. Because umbrellas were seen as a form of protection, opening them indoors may have also been seen as challenging a guardian or house spirits. So I can kind of see where this one came from, even though I honestly don't know how far back the invention of the umbrella goes. I mean, for a very long time, we've used coverings to protect ourselves from the elements and the sun, but the umbrella itself specifically, I guess.
Right.
But all right. Last one that I included in here, because again, these are just the most common. There's so many more superstitions out in the world, and I think even more pop up daily, is the evil eye. And we have kind of talked about this when we talked about charms and protection. The evil eye belief and associated practices are ancient, with origins tracing back to Mesopotamia around 5000 BC, with written and archaeological evidence suggesting even the Sumerians were some of the first to adopt the evil eye practices and beliefs. These beliefs would eventually be adopted into ancient Greek and Roman cultures, which I have seen a lot of that fact. And even you're talking about words, Ugaritic civilization, no idea where that is, of the late Bronze Age. The concept of the evil eye, believed to cause misfortune or illness through a malicious gaze, has spread to various cultures throughout history. The evil eye also has been adopted into jewelry, such as amulets, to ward off harm and misfortune. And even when somebody would draw an evil eye, a lot of people believe that if an evil eye was being drawn like under a bed or something, that was to curse you. In a lot of research now, it's hinted that that particular practice was to protect you from somebody using the evil eye against you. Now, I will ask you this: out of all the ones that we read, have you bought into any of those, other than the black cats, of course, because obviously you have black cats?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where I did buy into the black cats, and I changed over the years, of course. Honestly, I gave into. There were a lot of these that broken mirrors, walking under ladders, but I've broken mirrors, and I cannot tell you a time that I had literally 7 years of bad luck. Maybe a few days, but I don't think it was associated to
A broken mirror.
the broken mirror. And walking under ladders, it's kind of something that's become common for me, either when doing yard work or when I'm on set. Working, sometimes the easiest and safest route is to go under the ladder, especially when working in tight spaces. And the same thing with the umbrellas. I used to not open umbrellas in the home, but of course, film making kind of forced me to use umbrellas indoors, because sometimes that's what we need to do for a scene. Especially if you're doing like a set, where you're supposed to be outside, but you're actually filming inside. So that has always been relatively new for me with opening the umbrellas. But yeah, for most of these, I mean, I don't really think too much over them. The evil eye is probably one of the ones that is least prominent to me. Like, my cat gives me the evil eye all the time. So, and I've been okay so far. But what I think is really interesting about the evil eye, though, is, we use the evil eye in order to ward off the evil eye, if you will. And so in that case, you're kind of using a double negative to create a positive, which I think is really interesting, because I don't know if many people think about that. I do, clearly. And I don't know. I know you have always been interested in the evil eye. That's something that you really used as a source of production, or have.
I will say the all-seeing eye over the evil eye. It's still the same concept. It just goes back to Egyptian culture rather than like Mesopotamia and earlier cultures.
Right. And, the one thing with the evil eye and the all-seeing eye is that it is used prominently throughout the world. It's one of the most popular symbols in use today since ancient times. Since ancient times. And there seems to be no slowing down the particular use for those things. Obviously it's on the American dollar, and we, like you said, we see it in Egypt, and it's wild to me that there's so many conspiracies around the all-seeing eye and the evil eye. But that comes with the territory, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, and something that I, reading through these, ancient cultures didn't have safety precautions like we do now. So I seriously feel it was easier just to blame a deity or a phenomenon or a spirit, rather than say, hey, you're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that.
Right.
Because the fear was there.
Right.
I appreciate your concern.
Apparently,
I want to assure you,
Gemini thinks I'm talking to it.
I want to know what he was. Where was he going with that?
I don't know. It's heard all-seeing eye and heard AI and stuff.
He's like trying to. No, I'm not doing that. I swear I'm not watching you. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
So all of this stuff, in a sense, has supernatural connections, or paranormal connections, only because back in ancient cultures, it was believed that the gods or spirits or deities or whatever was always watching you. Mm-hmm. So superstitions and the supernatural are deeply intertwined, and often serving as manifestations of the belief of fate, magic, and unseen forces, like you mentioned earlier. Superstitions, essentially beliefs and practices considered irrational or supernatural, frequently tied to notions of good or bad luck and perceived influence from the supernatural. Many superstitions arrive from the belief that unseen forces, spirits, or magic can affect earthly events and human experiences. This belief is often accompanied by rituals or practices intended to influence these unseen forces and secure favorable outcomes. So reading that description right there very much reminds me of the OCD that you suffer from daily, because it kind of makes you wonder that maybe these people were suffering from some type of OCD or whatnot because they believed that doing one thing would make the bad things not happen, which is the kind of the belief that you go by for your OCD, right?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, and I think it also has the opposite. Like, you can say that it is a mental disorder. And like back then, people believed, based on superstition, that it was actually that these obsessions or the compulsions or anxiety even were created by spirits, as opposed to just the mind itself being fallible and therefore corrupted and capable of falling into disease or illness of some sort. But on the flip side, these are things that can also very well be spiritual. We have, or at least I have, seen and have heard stories of people who were prayed over because of schizophrenia or depression or anxiety. And after praying over them and casting out various demons, those people were cured from those things. And they've been living happy and well ever since, free from their disorders. Now, I do think that they probably go hand in hand. There are some individuals who have spiritual attachments that create these types of things. And then there are some people who don't, and they just have, unfortunately, a mind that suffers from these various illnesses.
Well, we've talked about how it could be both too, that
right.
A spirit or demon can exacerbate the mental illness or disorder to cause even further harm.
And and that's something that I have witnessed personally, where my anxiety or OCD, is calm. And then all of a sudden I'm in a situation where there is a spirit or an entity. And they use the word entity separate from spirit because an entity is usually considered a demonic or evil type spirit, whereas a spirit is usually referred to as a ghost or something good, but can also be used to refer to out on a negative as well. But yeah, when I go into those situations, those homes or those places where maybe a darker entity is, then my anxiety, my depression, the OCD, the obsessiveness especially tends to build and become stronger, and it's harder to fight against those things when it's being influenced by an entity of some sort. So yeah, I agree. I think they can certainly go hand in hand, and some people suffer from both. And so it's important to get the spiritual help while also seeking the physical or mental help from a psychiatrist or therapist or whatever, or self-help books, things like that. You have to work both sides, because if you work one more than the other, then you're always going to be lacking. You're always going to be struggling somewhere. So it's important to be well-rounded and find balance.
Yeah. In any aspect of your life. Exactly. Now, superstitions often revolve around the idea that certain events or occurrences are signs of future events, either good or bad. We see this in like doppelganger sightings and stuff like that as well. I'm sure we did an episode on this, but like Abraham Lincoln seeing his doppelganger in the mirror, and the one side of his face was kind of like a dead face, very gray. And then I think it was only a few months later when he was assassinated. So another example of this is seeing a black cat crossing your path is often considered a bad omen, while finding a penny is seen as good luck, unless it's face down, which this does not say. I forgot to put that in there. Face up is good luck, face down is bad luck. Another thing for the penny situation is a lot of people believe that finding coins can be considered a sign from the spirit realm if you're looking for a sign and ask for that particular sign. Superstitions can also stem from a fear of the unknown and the desire to exert some control over unpredictable situations. Engaging in superstitious behaviors like wearing a lucky charm or performing a ritual can provide a sense of control and reduce anxiety in the face of uncertainty. I mean, look at a lot of the athletes to this day will have like a lucky sock they wear, or
that they never wash for years on it.
Right. Or jock strap.
Oh,
disgusting.
No, why do we have to bring that up? Come on. This is supposed to be a clean, family-friendly show.
I didn't say anything other than jockstrap.
Well, you and I both also have, of course, have lucky charms or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I've kept a lucky penny in my pocket for months after I've found it before.
And I of course wore my black obsidian amulet that I would always wear. And like some of these things, they serve their purpose for a while and then they're released and you put them wherever, like you get rid of them, or you just like I don't wear my amulet anymore. Just no real reason. Just I already wear 2 necklaces and adding a third is like, oof. But on occasion, if
getting heavy.
Yeah. On occasion though, if the energy is like negative around me, I'm feeling that thickness, I'm feeling some sort of way where it feels like an energy source is affecting me in a bad way, I will go ahead and put on that black obsidian amulet that I have. And then almost immediately I feel the difference. I feel that energy change just because of its source, the power that black obsidian has in absorbing negative energies. And the same goes with like any other type of crystal for that matter, whatever your particular crystal is. I know some people identify with certain crystals, kind of resonate with them. But also just various metals. We think of the St. Christopher medallions that we had once upon a time. I mean, there's one you sent me this cross. And for those of you watching, you can see online, this guy has a St. Christopher on the back here on the front. Well, in the middle, there is the St. Christopher coin. So it's the front and back. There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah, so there's things like that, which kind of help with protection, and whether or not they truly help in protecting or providing good luck, we don't really know. It could simply be there as like a change of mind. When we believe something to be helpful for us, we tend to find that we have better luck when we have those objects on us. I can't tell you how many times I'd have a bad day because I forgot something that I normally carry on me. Like I do not take the 2 necklaces that I wear. One is more recent, but the one I've had on for a little over 2 years now, and I've not taken it off. I mean, on occasion here or there when swimming, but I feel naked without it. So, it's one of those things where if it leaves me, then I feel like something's missing. And I think for a lot of people, that's what happens when you have these lucky charms or amulets and what have you.
Well, look at modern day Christianity that many, I don't say all, but many wear the cross or the cross with Jesus on it. Although there are many Christians that believe that, in the Bible, it says, do not worship idols. And that is considered a kind of idol. So,
yeah, I think, I mean, that's, I feel like that's a little bit more of, what the word is, but I feel like there's a little more to it than that, because like worshiping an idol is literally like placing an idol and worshiping it. Like that's the thing.
Oh no, yeah,
love, whereas a cross for most people, not saying that there aren't people who idolize the crucifix, but it's more of a representation of God, right? It's just a symbol. And of course, mind you, and this is one of the reasons I don't typically wear a cross, is because there are so many individuals who wear crosses as a fashion statement. They don't believe in God. They're not Christians. And it kind of, in all honesty, disgusts me that people would wear it and adopt it. And I don't like being associated with something that is widespread use for something other than what its true purpose is. And that's not to say it's wrong. It's wrong for anyone to wear a cross. I still have one that I wear on occasion, but it's just something I'm like, anyone could look at that cross and their first thought isn't, oh, that's a Christian. That's a cross necklace. And that's it. So I tend to adopt symbols and things that kind of are like speaking pieces, something that initiates a conversation.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this, and I mean, we can both kind of give our insights on it, but do superstitions invite spirits or energies instead of protecting you, if you will?
I think it depends. I mean, I know it's kind of like the easy way out saying it depends, but it's true. I think depending on the superstition, it can either invite or protect a person from a spiritual attack. in this case, or negative energy. When you adopt the superstitions, you are naturally allowing yourself to keep an open mind to the world around you that is unseen. And therefore, you constantly have this door open, but you trust in that object or whatever the superstition is, whether it's not opening an umbrella, whether it's wearing certain objects, whether it's throwing salt over your shoulder. On the flip side, I think if you were to not believe in superstitions, you're probably more closed off to some of the spiritual realm and some of the things around you that are unseen to some extent in most cases. And if that's the case, it all comes down to one thing, how is that door being opened and whether or not it is being opened? And a lot of it is based on belief. When you consider, we've said this many times, all you have to really do is think about a negative energy or a negative entity coming through whatever type of song that you're listening to, or maybe it's a movie you're watching. And then all of a sudden people start reacting to things that are happening around them. And they don't understand why. And I think it's because our minds in general are very powerful and they're capable of opening doors, whether we mean to or not.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. That it can invite negative spirits or energies in, just especially if somebody is really obsessing, like you're saying, where if you're thinking about black-eyed children, for example, and then all of a sudden you're having these visitations, if you will,
right.
Which I actually have not seen evidence of that particular entity being used, but the only reason I bring it up is because I don't know why, but as of late, I've seriously been getting weird vibes at night and thinking, God, is there going to be black-eyed kids at my door, or like is stuff going to start flying off the walls or something? I don't know why. No particular reason at all why I'm worried about that. Now, I put this in here mostly because I feel like it has, only with the salt, but have superstitions played a role in any of our investigations?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. I mean, you said at the beginning of the show, we should throw salt around the car every time we left it on an investigation or before we got into it. Usually it's like when we first started an investigation, we would circle the car with the salt, make sure no spirits crossed over, believing that no spirits are crossed over. Likewise, we also wore the St. Christopher medallions for a while. We also kept crystals in our pockets while on investigations to kind of help create this protective barrier. So yeah, I would say we definitely have at times allowed superstition to take part, I guess, within our investigations. Whether or not they influence the investigation, I can't say, but
right. Yeah, I that's the only thing I could think of was the salt, but yeah, the medallions too. Now, I had put this in here just because I've sent you so many videos over the years about things being posted on TikTok, YouTube, but modern superstitions and social media. There's so much being blasted out there right now. Angel numbers, which is a practice before people were throwing it out onto social media. Manifestation rituals, TikTok spells. I didn't know people were throwing spells out on TikTok, but apparently that's the case. Our new superstitions, just old beliefs being put into modern clothing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in most cases, not all, some of them are just simply new. We live in a world now where, we call it the new age. And of course, the new age is a very broad umbrella term for all the things that people are doing or experiencing these days. We have Christian witches, which is relatively new. I've had that discussion just this week with somebody that was interesting. But there are so many individuals who I think are starting to fall into superstitions more and more these days, especially with how things have been turning when it comes to wars, when it comes to American politics, when it comes to just world politics for that matter, when it comes to daily living and how one person lives their life versus somebody else, and whether or not someone's going through a bad situation or a good situation. Like, what are the things that influence either or? And so, yeah, I think there are a lot of people who, they want, in this case, like thinking about angel numbers and thinking about the manifestation rituals and TikTok spells and all of that, people want some sort of physical way to kind of balance their understanding of the modern world with their own beliefs. And sometimes it's hard, like even personally as a Christian, it's very hard for me sometimes to just fully have faith that God is going to come through, that he's going to, be there for me, that he's going to come through on his promises that he's promised me. And that's a natural thing, I think, for any human being to fall into, to have that doubt every once in a while. But some people take it much further and they want something a little more physical that they can kind of do on their own. It becomes more of a selfish, and for those of you I hope you don't take that word too personal, because I know selfish could be kind of harsh, but it's a selfish way of trying to find one's course, I guess, right? So instead of praying to God for help, people want to start manifesting things on their own. They want to start creating things happening in their lives on their own. And so that's where the spells come in. So it becomes very, very personal in that sense. And I think that's going to continue to happen as the years move on. Like, where exactly we're going, I have no clue. Like, at this point, I have no idea. I thought we were going somewhere good years ago. I thought we were going to be living in some crazy futuristic world right now. And still, I think we're falling backwards. So I'm waiting for Neanderthals to pop up soon.
Or some type of dystopia.
Some sort of just, it's.
All right. So like I mentioned earlier, we did do a poll. For those that participated, I created a little pie chart here. So the majority of beliefs was I avoid walking under ladders. That was 27.3%. I knock on wood for luck. That was 27.3%. Next was I won't open umbrellas indoors. That was 18.2%. I toss salt over my shoulder. That was only 9.1%. Black cats crossing your path was 9.1%. And breaking a mirror, 7 years bad luck, 9.1%. Now, it is a huge eye opener to see that even today, people are practicing the protection against these superstitions. But final thoughts for you. Are superstitions real, and should we protect ourselves against them?
I think they're real if you want them to be real. There's this saying that says that we create our own bad luck. And I think that's very true. When you put your mind on the idea that only negative things are going to happen, then the chances are only negative things will happen. And it's not because the world is out to get you, but it's because you trick your own mind and body into doing things that evolve into negative outcomes. Now, I'm one who does knock on wood on occasion when I say something, and usually I say something kind of a joke. And that's when the knock on wood comes in.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's something that I do, whether or not I believe that whatever it is actually going to happen. If I don't knock on wood, that's a hard one. That's psychiatry, because like, and part of me is like, I don't, but the other part of me is like, yeah, I kind of do. Like, if I don't knock on that wood, something might happen. But it's all part of the OCD, the obsessions and the compulsions. That's why I give into them, because there is a part of me that does believe that bad things will happen if I don't fix them by doing these little rituals. But yeah, no, I do think that that people often will create their own bad luck more than anything. And so it's important, again, to kind of read or watch self-help books or videos to help you understand yourself and understand the world and understand the situations you're going through, so that you can manifest better outcomes for your life. And part of that is really just having a positive outlook on things, which isn't easy. It's very much not easy.
Easier said than done, as I always say.
Yeah. But I think truly that's the first step. Like if we want to break free from these superstitions, we need to trust that good things will happen, even if we happen to open an umbrella indoors or walk under a ladder.
Yeah, there's so many things going on in this day and age that fear of the unknown or of superstitions or what have you, I feel is the least of our worries right now. So if you didn't participate in the poll, our question to you is, what is the weirdest superstition you follow? Put it in the comments, reach out to us on social media. You can even email us if you like. That's fine too. Anything else you can think of that we might have missed for superstitions?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I really wanted to do this episode because when we first started up ParaTruth, one of the first ones we did was Friday the 13th and superstitions. And my birthday falls on Friday the 13th this year. And so it just brought that to the forefront of my mind. Not that I've ever thought Friday the 13th or my birthday falling on Friday the 13th is bad luck or anything like that. But that's one of those common ones too, which we actually didn't cover this time. But next week we'll be talking about the American witch trials. Eric will be gone for this one. He's got work again, so I'm going to be bringing on JJ Rose, which has been on several shows on UPRN. I want to say she has her own show. I'm not 100% on that. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, no matter where you listen. Again, this has been a pre-recorded show on United Public Radio Network and 107.7 FM New Orleans. Make sure you're checking out all the great shows that are on UPRN, even the one that is before us and the one that is after us, because they are some great shows. And until next week, where you'll find us same time, same channel. My name is Justin.
And I'm Eric. Peace.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.